Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, hope you're doing great. It's your friend Phil here, project management trainer and coach. This is going to be a really quick session. I just wanted to go over the basics of project management with those who are new to the concept or the idea or the term. Project management has been around for a long time. It's just that people haven't always called it project management. And a lot of times in companies, you hear people say, well, my job role is not project manager. I'm not a project manager. That is not completely true. Everyone, to some degree, is a project manager. Some people do it full time, nothing else but project management. Other people do this at certain points in their day. Other people do this and make big bucks by managing projects. But whatever the project manager you are, it's the same story. You've got your orders that need to be carried out, and you've got a deliverable that needs to be met. Now that word deliverable sounds big. It's not really that big a deal. A deliverable is something that needs to be delivered to a customer, to a boss, to a parent, maybe even to a child. So let me give you some very basic examples of what these deliverables from projects are. A deliverable in a more elaborate sense could be a software application to be programmed and to be ready for purchase. So that software application could be looked at as a deliverable. Or perhaps it's a 10-story structure for a corporate firm that wants to relocate. So they build this 10-story structure. That is also a project. What about the Olympic Games? That is also a project. Now, what is a project? It's a short-term endeavor. A short-term endeavor that is meant to deliver something. Some people could be working on their homework and look at it as a project. It could be. You could look at your homework as a project. It's got a start time. It's got a deadline by which you need to hand it in. You could look at it as a project. You know, some high schoolers talk about projects they need to get done. You know, it could be a presentation to their class. It could be a paper they need to write. Those are all projects. So when you hear the term project management, don't overcomplicate it. It's all about delivering something to someone. It's all about getting something done within a particular time frame. And projects are one-time endeavors. They're things that are very unique for that particular period. For example, your homework for yesterday is not the same as a homework for tomorrow. Your thesis for this time period, even if someone writes something similar, it will never be exactly the same with all of the parameters. So think about projects just like that. It's a short-term endeavor. And start identifying yourself as a project manager. I may not have the title of project manager, but I'm managing projects. So that's how I want you to relate to this stuff I'm going to show you. Everyone is a project manager. What about your journey to work every day? Take it as a project. You need to manage it. You need to start the project. Because if you don't start, of course, you're not going to get done. So you have to start the project, but in your head, you need to think about all the things you need to do to get to work. So you might think, I need to get to work this morning. Am I going to take the 101, the 202, the 10? Am I going to go inroads? So you have to plan out your project. And planning out your project depends on a lot of parameters. Maybe the 101 is blocked. Maybe there's your favorite cop hiding under the bridge on the 202 and he's caught you twice before. You don't want it to happen again. So you plan differently, you know. Whatever the unique circumstances on your project are, you're going to have to plan for those unique circumstances. And you also need to plan for the unexpected. You know, some people plan out their journey when it's about to snow and they think, wow, if it snows, if I take that uphill or downhill road, I could run into trouble. We call that managing risks. So you may not call yourself a project manager, but you're thinking like a project manager should think about risks. You're thinking like a project manager should think about schedule. How long will it take? If I take the I-10, I'm likely to hit that miserable traffic in Phoenix or Tempe. You know what I'm talking about if you live here. So you might need to plan differently. That is what project management is. I need to deliver this. What do I need to do to deliver it? And what does my timeline look like? Maybe how can I optimize my timeline? For me, I know taking the Kellips to a particular part of the 202 is the best thing to do early in the morning, at least for me from where I live. And that strategy is part of my project management approach. So when you think about project management, folks, don't think about it as, oh, it's a lofty old job and you need the title and you need a certification before you can be called project manager. No, you already manage projects. I dare say a 5-year-old already has a project management mindset because it's the habits of, I need to get up, I need to wake up, I need to brush my teeth. That's how you manage the project to go to school. You get what I'm saying? It's very trivial. All right. What about this? It's a product. To deliver this product, at least the concept of the product, this could be looked at as a project. You're going to have to do a little bit of research, but the moment your boss authorizes you to produce one of these as a prototype, for something bigger, you could look at that as a project. You could look at writing a book. This is the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide. This, also a project. You don't want to know my opinion about that project, so let's put that aside. But that is the standard on which the Project Management Professional Exam is based. That in and of itself is a project. So when you think about project management, don't overcomplicate it. At least getting into it for the first time, have an open mind. Don't shut down whoever's trying to teach you project management like, oh, that's not for me. I just got done training this week. I trained going to 100 folks. And lots of them said, I'm not a project manager by title, but I manage projects. I'm like, thank goodness you realize that you manage projects. So you are a project manager. Don't say I'm not a project manager. If you are managing short-term endeavors, you are a project manager. So anyway, I wanted to share some stuff with you guys today, just very simple things that will help you better understand project management. So I'll start off simple and then I'll build on it. So project management is like a race. You see, it's like starting off at the very first block with the authorization. What are you doing? Oh, I'm about to start working on my project. What is the first thing you do? Well, you need to understand your project. Have you ever gotten an assignment from a teacher, a trainer, a coach, a mentor, and you are absolutely clueless? You're like, what are you asking me to do? I've got no idea what you're asking. The reason why you do not know is because you did not formally identify what needed to be done. Now, formally sounds very lofty and stern, but I mean intentionally. You did not intentionally ask your teacher, what exactly do you want us to do? And that's what this first step is. This first step is, what would you like me to do? What should I do? What is this all about? We call that initiating the project. It's starting off on a good footing and understanding really well what you're meant to do. Now there's a document. This is going a step further to now begin to talk about how projects are managed in the real world. In the real world, there should be an authorization for the project and clear directions. So anyone asking you to work on the project and has not given you clear directions, they're not doing it right. They should give you clear directions. And those clear directions are summarized in a document. And this document is exactly what I'm showing you on the screen. It's called a project charter. It's a simple document, very simple, that just itemizes what needs to be done, when does it need to be done, and how do I know you have succeeded when you get to the end of the endeavor. Very simple. It may also identify, Phil, you are the project manager and you can apply all of this money to the project to get it done. And you can use anything you want in the house or in the firm to get it done. That is pretty much what your project charter is. It's a high-level document, and by high level I mean it's short and sweet in many instances. Don't make it too long, make it short, make it sweet. Now let me tell you what this charter is going to do for you. Let's think about a team. Oh dear, I hate to bring that up, but did you watch the match last night? Did you see Mr. Curry in action? Did you see Mr. Durant in action? Don't let me scream, because that was quite a match. That was a match. I mean, did you see that differential? Oh, let's stop. Anyway, talking about teams, goals, right? The team knows what needs to be done by understanding what the manager wants, right? By understanding what needs to be done. And how do you really get to what needs to be done? It's in the charter, all right? Sorry, Cavs fans. Hey, don't tune out. I saw like 10 people just dropped off the call. Hey, don't take it personal. I'm just talking about teamwork. To get your team on the same page as you, you're going to have to spell out what needs to be done in a short document called a charter, all right? So that's the first thing. We call it the project charter. Second thing that we need to do here is identify all the people that can be affected by the project. All the people that can affect the project. Okay? So we're talking about team members, other people in the organization you're working at that could help you. Maybe you're working on a financial tool, for example, and you need input from the folks in the finance department. You need to identify those people that can help you move further along on your project. That's the whole idea. Who can help me? Who can get me further along? You know, who can give me advice or insights? And those people who may sign off on certain things that you've done, they're also stakeholders. You know, while we may not call them customer, they could be an end user. An end user, I talked about this, an end user of this could say, that's not a very good design. I can't use that for my iPad. I know I can use it for the Google Voice tool, but Mr. Cook is not going to be very impressed. Therefore, I am not signing off on this. People like that need to be identified up front. You want to identify anyone that has any sort of interest, influence, or power on your project. All right? So we started off talking about very basic projects, writing a thesis, doing homework. But now we're amping it up a notch. So you're imagining you work in a firm and someone has given you work to do. That work has to be approved at the end. Those people who gave you the work in the firm, they're stakeholders. People who can help you get to your goal, they're stakeholders. Now let's say I had an external supplier that was supplying me with this piece. That supplier is also a stakeholder. So it's anyone who can affect your project. Anyone at all. Anyone on the spectrum of things that needs to be done, approved, listened to, helped with, stuff like that. Those people are all stakeholders. All right, so that's your next step there. Identify stakeholders. Okay? What is our next step in project management? So at this point, you have now initiated your project. Initiating is like the genesis of the project, the very beginning, the first book, right? After you've got this information down, you then go into the big boys and big girls corner, where you sit down and you plan. The big boys and the big girls, they know that if they don't plan, they're going to fail. So understanding what needs to be done is not planning. That is getting your feet wet, but it's not planning. That is understanding, oh, so you want me to do this. Okay, in order to develop one of these, I'm going to have to do this, that, and the other. Maybe your boss says, okay, the project is to get 1 million of these done. And you think, and you're like, I wonder if I should get this done in Phoenix. Or I wonder if I should go elsewhere to get this done. Now, part of your project involves planning and research and thinking and weighing alternatives. Should I go to Malaysia? Or should I stay in Phoenix, Arizona and have them ship these down here and just assemble the whole thing? Or should I just contract it out to someone else? Now, some of these decisions might have been made much earlier on, but on a lot of projects, in planning, this is where you begin to think, how are we going to do it? I know what we need to do, but how are we going to do it? And then you begin to think, who are we going to involve? And so on and so forth. So planning starts off, as you can see on the screen, planning starts off with scope. So we think about the scope of what needs to be done. Do I need to travel to Malaysia? Is a Malaysian trip part of the plan, part of the project? If it is, then it becomes part of the scope. So a lot of people get this thing wrong. There's a difference, and it's very subtle, between the word requirements and scope. When you hear requirements, the requirement is the feature or the function that you would like to see. I would like this to be able to plug into my iPad and also one of the Google Boys devices, whichever one. I mean, this USB is used for all their stuff anyway. And then I would like, at the touch of a button, I would like the screen to go off. Those are requirements. Now, in order to get that done, we need to have the product and all of these things built in, and that may require a trip outside of the country if we're looking at getting one piece made in mass and we want to check out the facility and make sure that they're obeying local labor laws and so on and so forth. We may want to do that, make sure they're internationally compliant and stuff, and they're not using child labor and other horrendous things like that. You may need to go out there and check them out. Checking them out is part of the scope. What needs to be done and built, those are the requirements. So features, functions, those are requirements. But the work you need to do before all of those things come together, that's the scope. So requirements trigger scope. For example, someone says, I want a chicken sandwich. And you're like, okay, that's easy. I'm going to go to Walmart, buy the bun, buy the bread, buy the lettuce, get mayonnaise, get some, I don't know, whatever goes with the chicken sandwich. Some people like tomatoes on it. Squeeze the mayo, put it together, boom, done. But the customer says, hey, before you start, my requirements are that this chicken sandwich needs to be made from scratch, entirely from scratch. I don't want you going to Walmart or Fry's or any of these markets to buy anything. You're gonna make it from scratch. You're gonna get the chick from the egg. You're gonna grow the poor thing till it's a chicken. You're gonna grow the lettuce behind your house or in your business. You're gonna make a vegetable patch. You're gonna grow the tomatoes. You're gonna go to the ends of the earth to find what I need to make the custom sandwich. And you begin to make the sandwich, and one of your team members comes along and says, oh, by the way, you haven't booked your trip to the Atlantic or the Pacific. Like, why do I need to go to the Atlantic? Because the customer said you're not allowed to buy salt. You have to make it from scratch. Now, it sounds outrageous, but based on what the customer wants to see in the deliverable, based on the features that the customer wants to see, your scope of what needs to be done could change or could be enlarged. Do you see what I'm saying? So, which is easier, to go to Walmart and pick up a bunch of things, come back, make a chicken sandwich, or for you to have to go all the way to the ends of the earth, to the Pacific, to the Atlantic, get salt water and then evaporate it for 24 hours or however long you need to before you get tiny little pieces of salt out of it? You see what I'm saying? It really depends on what the customer wants. So requirements beget scope. So all this stuff that I've got on the screen, if you take a look here, these all relate to scope. One, you got to plan. How are we going to manage scope? Oh, we're going to get everyone in a room and we're going to sit down and plan it out. And then two, how are we going to collect requirements? Oh, we're going to go for interviews, sit down at the client side, do all that. And then you begin talking about how do we flesh out these requirements? And someone says, oh, well, we're going to put together a document that writes, spells everything out. We're going to write it all out, and then we're going to get approval back from the customer. And someone says, well, how do we know what is not included in this job? We need to spell that out as well. Not just what is in the project, but what is not in the project. You see where I'm going? So if the customer says, put together a list of exclusions, and you say, this is not part of the project, the customer could object and say, going to the Atlantic actually is part of the project because. So putting together exclusions can also help you realize if you are in alignment with your customer or not. So there's a document that I mentioned up here in this image called the project scope statement. And the project scope statement, it defines inclusions and exclusions. What is in the project and what is not in the project. So very elementary, but a lot of people miss it. And my metaphor for this is the telescope. So scope, telescope, that will help you remember. We need to plan scope. So in addition to this, there is something called a work breakdown structure. And a work breakdown structure looks like a family tree, but it is quite helpful in breaking down work that you're doing. It's quite helpful in that if you put a work breakdown structure together, people would be able to see visually what you're trying to do and hopefully be able to understand what you're trying to achieve, but visually. Okay, and I'll just say that there are sites on the web where you can get additional training and information on the work breakdown structure. In fact, the Department of Energy has quite an interesting site where they put together a lot of information about the WBS. So if you Google those keywords, I'm quite sure you'll be able to find the Department of Energy's spiel on the WBS. They've got quite an interesting breakdown of the work breakdown structure. So let me just whet your appetite a little bit to check out the Department of Energy's work breakdown structure reference. Again, if you go to the web and Google it, you'll see exactly what I'm sharing on the screen. It's very easy to find. You can see it walks you through how to prepare a work breakdown structure. It's very, very simple. It's like putting together a family tree. I guarantee you, your 12-year-old nephew or niece can do this easily for their projects. So the whole idea is to scope out what needs to be done. If you take a look at the screen here, we have Best Management Books, the company, and then it goes into the book, Project Management and Introduction. And it breaks down the project, as you can see, into chapters. Chapter 1 has to be done. It has to be written. It has to be edited. Chapter 2 has to be done. It has to be written. It has to be edited. These are things that are very basic. But can you imagine having a complicated task at work and wondering, where do I even start from? Having this is going to give you ideas about where you need to go on the project, what you need to do, how you're going to get the work done. So it's a very simple concept, but when it is performed, it becomes invaluable, especially when you've got a team involved in putting one of these together. Let me show you one more. They've got quite an interesting example here. It's the work breakdown structure for a house. So they show the first level of that tree structure is the house, and then they go a step further and they begin to build the concrete, the foundation, the framing, the plumbing, the electrical. It's a very, very simple, basic concept. And then they begin to develop it a little bit more. They put more flesh, more meat on the bone. Why do we do this? The answer is to be clear on what needs to be done, to be clear on the scope. Okay? The guys at Booz Allen put this together for the Department of Defense, and it's out there, like I said, and if you just Google those keywords, you're going to end up finding the document out there. But my advice would be, if you're ever confused about, I don't know what to do on my project, I don't have much clarity, Phil, get with your team. You know, teamwork makes the dream work. If you're stuck, you know, maybe you're working on a project with your buddies at school, come up with a work breakdown structure. Okay, we need to write, we're going to break it down into these chapters, and then we're going to do this, we're going to do illustrations, and then we're going to submit it to someone to review, or maybe one of our parents, and then we're going to end up having a deliverable. That's the mindset for this thing. It's not really that far-fetched, okay? So take a look at the screen here. Our next step is to now put together a timeline, and we call that scheduling. So we want to develop a schedule for our work. How do you develop a schedule? You put together a timeline. It could be a very simple thing where you say, I'm starting on this date, I'm ending on this date with chapter 1. I'm starting on this date, I'm ending on this date with chapter 2. And you just itemize everything that needs to be done. And at the end of the day, you've got your schedule. It could even be done in Excel. You know, so you've got your task 1, and then you've got a description, and then you have the timeline, 1st of January to 10th of January. Then you've got your next item. What exactly is it? And then when are you starting? When are you finishing? That's really what scheduling is. You know, thinking about the time frame. Oh, I cannot spend 10 days writing chapter 1 because it is due in 10 days. So I need to shorten chapter 1 to 1 day, chapter 2 to 1 day, chapter 3 to 1 day. And boom, we're going to be done with the writing on day 3. We'll edit everything on day 4. And on day 5, it will go for a draft review. On day 6, we'll tidy everything up. Day 7, we're done. That's how you need to think about your project. So the timeline, as you can see here, is all about scheduling what needs to be done. It's a big word, but that's really what it is, just your timeline. The next thing we plan in project management is the cost. So you want me to develop this thing right here? Well, in order to do that, it's gonna cost money. We've already established I need to travel to Malaysia, take a look at the facility, and then the rest of this stuff is made in the United States. But the assembling of everything is going to take place here. So what are we going to do? Someone might say, well, let's look at some trade-offs. Maybe we should actually have it assembled over there. So whatever you want to do as far as your project is concerned, don't do it without counting the cost. How much will it cost if we use materials such as that? But you know, a lot of people in companies, you know what they're guilty of? They are guilty of not managing the cost element. Have you ever worked in a firm where someone said, oh, we're all salaried anyway, why do we need to manage cost? That is just so bad. Don't do that to yourself. Because what you're doing is you're taking resource hours and you're using them without really counting the cost. you're using them without realizing what is going into the project. Some people, if they just counted the cost of the resources they use, they wouldn't work on certain projects. Think about it. Some people put together a team in a company to work on some project that is only going to deliver, best case, 100K of value, 100K of value, best case. But they've put Frank and Mary and Tina, who all earn 50 grand a year on the project, full time for 6 months. Does that make sense? And then they've included everyone else in the firm for reviews. And the best case, the most they can make from that, or the most they could gain from it, tangibly or intangibly, is 100K. You don't want to work on projects that you do not need. Now, on the flip side, it might be a regulatory project that has to be done for you to be in business. In that regard, it makes sense. But all I'm trying to say is count the cost. And that's exactly what we do here. So taking a look at the screen, you can see cost planning is next. The next thing we want to think about is quality. Quality is fitness for use, conformance to requirements, and customer satisfaction. So you want to think about a quality product. You want to plan quality in. So in planning quality in, you may make trade-offs as well. You might say, should I use an inferior, product or sub-product to get my product done? It will be cheaper, but will people buy it? And what will your reputation be like in the industry? No one's even going to pick one of these up. They're just going to look for one of the higher ends, the higher end products. So you need to make cost trade-offs. Someone might say, oh, this is just it's for a program and we don't have that much budget anyway, so we need to cut our code according to our size. It's also a mindset or thought of quality, but quality is all about 1, fitness for use, 2, conformance to requirements, and 3, customer satisfaction. So if your customer or your end user or your teacher or your lecturer or your parent, whoever it is not happy with your final product, then quality has not been met. In order for quality to be met, you need to make sure it fits the requirements, it's fit for use, and your customer is happy, your customer is satisfied. So that's what quality is. It's not all about, oh, well, it's exactly what's in the book. No, quality is all about your customer being satisfied. And if your customer is not satisfied, quality has not been achieved. All right? So those of you who are just joining, we're talking about the basics of project management. We're looking at it from a very real world, get your hands dirty, get it done standpoint. And in the beginning, I talked about project managers who are in denial that they are project managers. For me, my first contact with observing multiple tasks being done and work being accomplished was when I looked at my mom, who's a painter and artist. And she would have these exhibitions and she would have to plan out everything. She would do the artwork, then she would plan out when it's going to happen. Then she'd plan, am I going to do a canvas? Am I going to do oil on canvas? Am I going to do pastel on paper? Am I going to use these Rembrandt brands? Or am I just going to use a 2B to 5B pencil assortment? So she'll make up her mind on how to do the work. And then when the work was ready, how she would hold the exhibition. And she would do all this stuff like a project manager. But now she's 80 something and I just got to train her. You know what you were doing all these years is actually project management. She couldn't believe it. She said, oh, okay. I didn't know I was a project manager. You see, lots of people are like my mom. They don't know that what they're doing is managing projects. And I'm here to tell you today, folks, you are actually a project manager. You might be a secret project manager. You might be a behind the screen project manager, but you are a project manager. Whether you're in the closet or you're out, you are a project manager, trust me. You're managing projects, but people may not call you project manager. So now it's time to come clean and say, hey, I am a project manager after all. All these years I didn't know what I was doing. Your buddy Phil is telling you you are a project manager, you know. And to manage projects effectively, you need a set of tools, but you don't need a complicated set of tools. You need the things I'm showing you right now. Project charter that authorizes the project. You could write one down on a piece of paper in 5 minutes. Just sit down. Hey, if your boss has something for you to do, your parent has something for you to do, just sit down and say, hey dad, hey mom, hey boss, what do you want me to do? And make it clear. Make it very, very clear. You know, I tell people make it smart. Make it smart. Make it specific. Make it measurable. Make it an achievable goal that someone can actually get done. You know, for example, you waking up tomorrow and saying, I want to take over the Coca-Cola company. I don't think Warren's going to be very happy about that, and I don't think he's going to let you do it. That's not achievable. Make your goal achievable, right? And then make it realistic. Make it something that is realistic, not like, I want to take over all that Warren has. Good luck to you. It's not realistic. Have you been through all the things he has been through? You know? And then you also want to make it time framed, time bound. That's really what I'm talking about. So you want to make it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time frame. Then you want to scope out the project. What exactly do I need to do? Is going to the Atlantic part of it? Is going on a bike ride with my buddies part of it? Maybe you're writing a science project and you need to go out looking for samples. Yeah, it's part of it. The bike ride is part of it. But just don't allow scope creep. In other words, don't add going to the bar as part of that. That is out of the question, you know. And if you're underage, act like you didn't even hear that. Okay. Next thing is to schedule out what you have scoped. Schedule, okay, we're going to do this at this time, this at this time, this at this time. Then think about your cost. How much money do you have to play with, you know? And then think about the quality, you know. Will my boss be impressed if I handed this over? Will my boss accept this? Or will I get an A? You know, will I get an A if I handed this in? For those of you in the workforce, it's, will I get a promotion based on this project? If you know that you will not get a promotion based on what you're submitting to your boss, you might not want to submit it. I only want to submit things that will bring my A game, that will show I brought my A game. So when it comes to project management, quality is big, and that's why I'm kind of revisiting the area of quality. All right. So in order to get high quality, you need resources. You need coders, testers, people to help you, team members. So in this next one over here, after quality has been talked about, you need to think about resources. Humans, first of all, because humans make the world go round. Then you want to think about equipment, just like that tractor. The equipment, the equipment, the equipment. Don't forget the equipment. A lot of projects, people forget supply chain. They don't bring them in. They don't bring in their procurement people to help them think about how things will be supplied and purchased. You don't want to make that mistake. Remember, you need materials. Remember my little analogy here with my team in Malaysia, and I'm going over to Malaysia and I'm taking a look at those are resources, right? Those things, the stand behind it, that is one of my material resources. What about the keyboard? I need several of these. Remember, my boss wants me to knock out 1 million. So I need to think about all the resources I'm gonna have to get. Human, equipment, material, supplies, maybe even a facility out in Malaysia. I'm gonna have to travel out there. We're gonna have to take a look at it. We're gonna ask, should we build a new facility, or should we just buy this one? Should we use it for the duration of the project, and when the project is over, tear it down? Or is it gonna be cheaper to just sell it for a lot less? Because tear down is gonna cost a lot more, the demolishing and all that. So these are some of the things you would be thinking about. All right, next you want to think about the big C for communications. Communications planning. How are we going to communicate on the project? Who am I going to be speaking to as I carry this out on most days? And then I talked about risk in the beginning, uncertainties that can impact the project, right? And I kind of talked about procurement. Do we need to purchase materials? Yes. Okay, then we need a contract in place to protect us and to make sure people understand what needs to be done. See? And then, last but not least, we need to plan, how do I keep people working with me or people I'm working for engaged? In other words, how am I going to get person X to help me like they should? Or how am I going to get my mentor's time or my coach's time or my trainer's time to put me through a few things on this project? You see, those are stakeholders. It could even be, how am I going to get the customer to show up for meetings? How am I going to get the customer to buy into this change? Or how am I even going to get them to listen? You need to plan it, folks. You don't just wake up and find your customer waiting for you in the conference room. You got to earn it. And the way you earn it is by being intentional. Intentional to consciously think, how am I going to get hold of Frank? Okay, I know Frank always goes to the break room at 12 p.m., especially on Wednesdays, just before his 2-hour meeting. Maybe I can slip in a quick word there and let him know a couple of things, because I see him hanging out in the break room for at least 30 minutes. That could be your strategy. It's your plan for how to engage stakeholders. Or perhaps you know, my mom, my dad's going to be back at this time. Well, I don't want to bombard them because they're usually grumpy when I ask them questions at this time. Maybe I need to stagger it to later in the day. You guys have been there. Those of you who have parents that are not morning people, you know that is not the time to ask for more money. You don't want to ask for more pocket money, as we called it back in the day. I don't even know what they call it now. But anyway, you need to plan when and how to get your stakeholders engaged, your customers, your end users, anyone who can contribute to your project success is a stakeholder. All right, so we're almost done here. I'm going to round this off very quickly. But our next step, after we've planned all of this stuff, we then need to execute our plan. And as we are doing all of this stuff, we need to be monitoring and controlling various elements of the project. In other words, you need to be checking the work and making sure that you are doing well, making sure that you are doing things according to plan. I see a chat came in from one of our friends here. Elon, thank you for chatting in. How are you doing today, Elon? Do you manage projects? Are you doing good? What's new in your world? Chat in, tell us, let us know. But you see, project management is not as difficult as people make it out to be when you strip it down to bare bones. Everyone manages some sort of project. Everyone. Even, I dare say, a 6-month-old, they know the right time and the best time to execute their plan, to cry for attention. Everyone has some sort of project. Everyone. Right from the age of few months till we check out of here, we're always managing, always looking for ways to improve, to maximize, to optimize long-term, but also very short-term things, So there's no rule about, well, you can't call this a project if it's not up to 5 months long, or if you don't have a big old team of 10 people. No, there's no rule. If you want to call it a project, here are my guidelines. It has a start and an end. It has resources involved, stakeholders involved, a scope, and a schedule should be assigned to it. Simple things like that. But if it has a start, it has an end, it's a project. If there's a deliverable, it's a project. If it's put together to fulfill real needs, it's a project. If it's there to fulfill the hunger to be satisfied in some way, maybe the general public has a hunger to see better roads, then that's a need. It has to be filled. You got a project. If you've got maybe an environmental disaster that needs to be cleared up, the clearing up is a project. You see, so don't get hung up on, the lofty terms, and, don't put yourself in a box. So while I love the PMBOK guide, and everything that's here, I also have a very real world approach to my projects. And that's why when I go into firms to train, I tell people, hey, I'm not trying to change what you do. I'm only trying to help you make it better. I'm only trying to help you put some context around what you do, okay? And some of the context I help people to see is kind of exemplified in this next thing I'm about to show you. So let's take a look. Before we talk about our step 5, the final step, why don't I show you something else from the world of project management on the side of our government friends. So we took a look at the WBS, and that was just one of the things that's out there. But let me show you this really cool site. And those of you that have heard the term Medicare and Medicaid, you've probably seen this site before or heard of these guys. Well, they've got a website out there, and on their website they've got a bunch of artifacts, pretty cool artifacts that people who manage projects could use. You can see they've got a glossary of terms and templates. But let me show you one of the few templates that I mentioned was the project charter. That's it right there. If you clicked on that, it would open up a project charter, you see. So this is a website that has a lot of content. It's just one of the websites that I refer people to. There's a similar website by the CDC that is out there. So if you're looking for templates and tools to manage your projects, I am going to type that in right now into the chat box. And it's tiny.cc, C for Charlie, /sigma PMO and the number 1. That's the first site. And then the second site does not have a number 1. All right. So if you go there, folks, you're going to find some tools, some approaches, some things that you could use to amp up your project management. Various templates and plans and stuff such as that. All right. So I've chatted in the link to you, and hopefully those folks watching this after the fact will also be able to pull that up, take a look, and see some of the templates and tools that are available out there. Hey, we're talking about taxpayer money. Do you guys pay money to these folks? Then if you're not using what's out there, you're losing out. Anytime I see a government site and I see that our taxpayer money has been used for a good cause, such as keeping people straight in project management, I don't hesitate. I do not miss a beat. I go for it. Like there's no tomorrow. I go for it. Because these are things that can help you in your project management. All right, so let's round this up here so that everyone can go on their merry way. We've been here for going to 1 hour now. So to round this off, the final thing that happens in project management is we close out the project. We call it closing. That's where we hand over or transition over the final product after going maybe back and forth a few times, and we get to the point where the customer says, okay, it's good, I'll sign off and say you're done. The next step is to transition it. So if you're transitioning your deliverable, let's say you've got one instance of this and you're handing it over and transitioning it over to your customer. You might need to train them on how it's used. You may need to give them additional coaching. Those are all things you do towards the tail end as you're closing it out. So let me show you very quickly the summary for executing. This is a summary for executing. You direct and manage the work on the project, as you can see up here. You manage project knowledge, which means you collect your lessons learned. If you learned any lessons, such as how not to do things or how to do things, you can document them. You also are involved in checking to make sure that quality is being managed the right way, improving on your processes. It's all part of managing quality. But the undercovered name for managed quality is really quality assurance as well. We've got acquiring resources. It's something you do, even though I talked about it really quick. There is a process where you put on your resource acquisition hat and say, okay, when and how should we get these people on board as planned, and follow the plan, get them on board, acquire the resources, develop the team. So when we talk about resources, we've got human, equipment, materials, supplies, facilities, but developing the team is sending people for training and team building. You see, there's a lot of art and science involved in project management, and one of the sciences and the arts of this is team dynamics and emotional intelligence and how people think and behave on teams. That is a little bit wider than our scope for today, but I don't want you to lose sight of it. If you're working with a team, you need to build them. You need to get them to synergize. You need to get them to optimize their efforts. And we call that developing the team. We also have managing the team. As you sit down, manage team, you can see sitting down there is someone with his supervisor or the project manager, and the project manager is giving feedback to the team member to say, hey, we're not doing this the right way, or yes, we are doing this great, and keep it up, that kind of thing. Constructive feedback. Managed communications, as you can see over there, this is all about managing the flow by actually communicating. Managed communications is when you communicate. This is when you get up from behind the desk and you go to your customer, you go to your stakeholder, you take that trip. People go very, very far to communicate. And you might work in a company where you've been told to get on a plane on Monday morning and go meet a customer. And you're like, why can't we just do this by, I don't know, telephone or something else? Well, did you know that Professor Emeritus Albert Mehrabian conducted an experiment, and I believe this was at UCLA, if I'm not mistaken, but his experiment revealed that in a communication setting, only 7% of the message is perceived by the words. There's another 93% at stake if you do not put the body language and the tone of voice behind it. So communications is really big in the world of project management, and in fact the PMI identifies that up to 90% of a project manager's time is spent communicating. Some people rate it as a range between 70 to 90, but whatever the range you think about, the bottom line is communications is big, and we need to learn to communicate. So I want to give you an idea about beginning to practice your communication skills. The quickest way to do it is by looking at yourself in the mirror and asking, would I believe that guy, that girl, if I saw her, he or she communicating with me? Will I buy into what they're saying? Will I better understand what they're saying? How would I rate what they're doing? That's what you need to do in front of a mirror. And then you can actually go to the next level by joining establishments like Toastmasters, getting better in what you do, or maybe you might join one of the teams I'm on, the John Maxwell team. And we got a coach there, Roddy, who may end up coaching you in communications. You know, he might give you some tips, pointers, follow through, do them, and you'll be on your way to communicating better on your projects. All right, next here we've got risk management again. So this is where you implement your risk responses. And all this means is if you saw a potential risk on your project, maybe like there could be a shutdown of a particular facility that you need to use, your risk response could be, okay, I'm going to have another facility in a different location on standby so that if those folks in Malaysia are unable to do what we need them to do, we've got another firm, another facility, might cost a little bit more, but we've got them on standby. So if something happens here, we've got someone else, that can take care of the problem for us. And of course, I'm biased. I don't know about you, but Peter Parker is my favorite superhero. So I've got the amazing Spider-Man there. Very biased. Those of you DC fans, I've got nothing but love for Superman and Batman, so don't get your knickers in a twist. All right. Conduct procurement. This is where we award the contract and manage stakeholder engagement. This is where we physically engage our stakeholders in discussions, in communications, in going to where they are, carrying out your plan. You see, it can be a very energy draining task, but we need to engage our stakeholders, not just communicating with them, but communicating with an intent to engage. All right, we are almost done. Next one here is monitoring and controlling the project. So we can see different things here. Right up at the top, integrated change control means you don't just change things on your project without counting the cost. Monitor and control project work. This is reporting back to your stakeholders and management about how your project is going. Control scope means you are preventing people from adding extras. Oh, I know you said you were going to do this, but why don't you do this and that in addition? No, we don't want that. We only want to do what is required. Control schedule. This is where we make sure we are on time. Control cost. This is where we make sure we're not spending additional monies that are not supposed to be spent. We're making sure we're on budget. Control quality. This is where we are checking our product. So this is a rather important one. Control quality is where we would take a look at a final one of these and inspect it and say, okay, it meets our requirements, it meets what the customer wanted, and it looks like it's good to go to the customer. So we call that control scope, control quality. Controlling quality is when you do your check. This is not where your teacher or trainer or customer looks at the deliverable. This is where you look at the deliverable. So you might have heard the term QC, quality control. That's exactly what it is. All right. Next thing here is control resources. So if resources are under your care on the project, you want to make sure you don't abuse those resources. You want to use them the best way you can. Monitor communications is where you make sure your communications is the best that it can be. Monitor risks. This is where you make sure that you are checking your risks to make sure they've not become worse. Control procurement is where we are controlling the contract, making sure we're getting what we paid for. And monitor stakeholder engagement is where we ensure our stakeholders are happy. All right. Last but not least, folks, we have one more thing to talk about. And it's very important in firms where you're actually spending big money. Because as you spend big money, you make foolish mistakes sometimes. You do not want to make those foolish mistakes again. So you need to ensure you capture those lessons and share them with other people in the firm, in the industry, in the business, to say, hey, I made this dumb mistake. You don't want to do what I did. We call that the closing process group. So this is where there's the big old handshake. Your deliverable is complete, but don't forget, in handing over your deliverable, there's certain things that happen. Also, don't forget, you need your lessons learned to be compiled. A final report may be required of you, just like it is in several projects we do in high school, you know. And then we need to release our resources. So if there are things that you've got that you didn't use, products you bought that you ended up not using, well, this would be a great time to hand them over to someone who may actually need them on a different project. Or this may be where you end up clearing out your desk and saying, okay, job done, mission accomplished. All right? And that pretty much is it, folks, as far as going through all the bits and pieces that you carry out in project management. I could go a lot deeper, I could make it a lot more elaborate, but I just want to keep it manageable. So perhaps you're watching this over a series of days, you know, maybe 10 minutes here and there, that's good, but I'll say go back, listen, take little notes here and there, because there's actually a treasure trove of information right here in this video. The things I showed you, some of the concepts, the two links I shared, tiny.cc/Sigma PMO1 and tiny.cc/Sigma PMO, the sites for our friends at CMS and the CDC. These could actually help you a whole lot on your projects, because projects need intentionality, and the templates on these sites, they're going to help you be more intentional about managing your projects. At a minimum, folks, the project charter that I talked about, that gives you your high-level description, that tells you what are the key milestones, when do you need to get writing done by, when do you need to get editing done by, you know, those milestones, think about that as well. And also think about what could go wrong, you know, at a high level. Because if you're thinking about what could go wrong, hopefully you're going to think about how can we make things better or more sure than they are today. All right, so now would be a time I would take any questions from our viewers, because it's really for your benefit that I do these videos, right? So if you've got any like real world questions about a project you're managing or something you're doing in the real world and you would like me to give you some insights, you know, right now, give you some mentoring, some guidance, some coaching, you know, this will be a great time to ask questions. Or maybe you are taking a formal exam that has been put together by a body of people at the PMI. You know what I'm talking about. If you're one of those folks working on a professional exam, you got questions, now would be an equally good time to ask them. Otherwise, I will just say thank you very much for your audience, and I hope you will send this video on to 5 people in your firm that can benefit from it. Oh, I just see a question coming in on one of my devices here. Hang on a second. So I can see a question regarding how do I become a certified project manager? So that's a great question. Becoming a certified project manager, I guess I would ask the question, but I don't think I can do that. The question I would have asked would be, what kind of certification are you thinking of? Because I can share with you right here before we hop off this call, I can show you on PMI's website called pmi.org. There are resources that can guide you towards that. So let me talk about that very quickly. Those of you that need to hop off, I understand, but I really want to answer this person's question about how to get into project management. So let's go to PMI's website. Let me share that with you really quick here. Let's go to pmi.org. pmi.org. and that will take you to a site like this. You can see it on the screen. If you go to pmi.org, you want to click on certifications. Now, if you zoom in a little bit, let me do that. Okay, I hope you can see what I'm looking at here. So if you zoom in, you can see that we've got different certification types. PMP, Project Management Professional. Oops, come back. PMP, Project Management Professional. We've got one called Portfolio Management. Oh, anytime you click on it, that's it. Okay. So I'll just use my arrows. Okay. So you can see Project Management Professional. You can see Portfolio Management Professional. There are so many, but do you know the starting point? Starting point is this one right here called the CAP-M. Now the reason why I'm saying it's a starting point is to get CAP-M certified, you only need a high school diploma. So if you click on that, it opens up more information about this certification. So if you've got a high school diploma and you are interested in pursuing project management as a profession, you can actually take this exam after studying for it, you see. And we actually train this exam, but there's information about this right there. If you want to know more, right, if you had that question about this, just say, could I have more information? Send it in to us. Our website is the email is info@praizion.com, and I'll just share that on the screen right now. So if you send an email to info@praizion.com, we'll give you guidance as far as how you can sign up for the course, register for the course, but there are prerequisites, like you can see on the screen here. The prereqs for the CAP-M is a secondary school diploma or high school diploma, and also 1,500 hours of project experience, or maybe you don't have the project experience, then you need 23 hours of project management education. And we provide that training to people. All right? Someone might say, Phil, yeah, I've been managing projects. I don't need what that person needs. I need something else. So let me show you that. Again, under certifications, the one you might want if you feel you've gone beyond that point and you want to get into something more, deep, then click on the PMP, Project Management Professional, and it tells you what you need to get certified. You can see some of the high-level information down here. Let me move this over. So hopefully you can see that either you've got a secondary school diploma and 5 years of project management experience, which is pretty much 7,500 hours, and then also 35 hours of training, which you can get from us in project management, or it says 4-year degree, 4,500 hours of experience leading and directing projects, and 35 hours of project management education. So if you have any questions about the certifications, anything, perfect time to chat them in, folks. Any questions? Any concerns? Any comments? Any training you would like to see in addition to the Project Management 101? Don't hesitate, chat it in. If you're watching this after the fact and you have questions about anything project management related, leadership related, communications related, please chat them in to us. Send a message below. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this training, this mini session, don't forget to hit like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share it with your buddies, because the more you share this information about project management, the better people are going to be managing projects, So I want to encourage you, share the information with people. Share it with your team, This is going to be available long after the recording. And if there's anything you'd like to see, drop us a line, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to create content for you that trains you on the basics of project management or something else that surrounds project management. All right, don't forget, folks, the standard on which this is based is called the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide, the PMBOK guide. So a lot of what I've been teaching you is from a 756-page book, but hopefully I made it shorter and a little bit engaging, or dynamic for you to absorb better. But if you wanted to go into the depth of it, you can find this on PMI's website. I think it might be cheaper after all on their website, except you bought a used copy on Amazon. So check that out as well. This is a standard that changes pretty much every 4 to 5 years. Before this, there was a different edition that was called the 5th edition. So this is now outdated, and this is now what is being used. This was 2013, or I believe 2012, 2013 it came out. 2012 probably. And then it just recently changed in 2017. So that's roughly 5 years. Let me take a look at the date on this thing. It's been a while, so I tend to forget. Seems like copyright 2013. Yeah. So this is 2013. This came out in 2017. So roughly between 4+ years. All right. So if you have any questions about the standard, anything I can help you with, don't forget. Oh, Biren, my friend Biren Shah, he says info about PMI ACP materials. So Biren, for the PMI ACP, I'm working with one of our trainers to come out with a curriculum similar to what you've seen on the PMP, a little bit of Agile that we have, but our full-blown ACP course is not out yet. Okay, so if you're looking to get certified in ACP, what I would ask you to do to make sure you're in good hands, because there's lots of creatures, sharks, whales that could they see you looking for ACP, they grab you and they dunk you under the water. Before you know it, they're trying to eat you alive, But I want you to be in the best hands possible. So I want to recommend that you ask your local PMI chapter, which training do you have in place for people aspiring to be ACP? If I were you, I would go with my local chapter, since your buddy Phil does not have an immediate course for you to take. That said, I also would like you to go explore, just, hey, knowledge is power, right? Certifications are good, but we know they're not power. So I want to make you powerful right away, ASAP, with some knowledge and information that can help you. So I want you to go to a couple of sites. I want you to check out the Agile Alliance site, Agile Alliance. Just Google it, Agile Alliance. Those folks actually were instrumental in putting this together with the PMI. You even see the Agile Alliance right there. You see that? So the Agile Alliance is a reputable organization, right? Check out the Agile Alliance site. Now go a step further. I want you to register as a $0 user. It's very simple. If you haven't already done it, do it. Put in your email, become a registered user of the Agile Alliance site. Then go a step further. Check out the videos that they have. Now this is making you a tactical project manager with knowledge ammo. Because if you watch some of the videos that are out there for free for their $0 users, I think you'll find value from it. And then if you wanted to amp it up with a $100 membership or however much it costs now, I think that will help you immediately begin to gain the knowledge on Agile. But don't think you're not a powerful agile project manager if you already have the knowledge and experience. You already know you're powerful, right? But we're talking about the exam. I think some of those videos on the Agile Alliance site can help you right now on your projects, and I think they can also help you as you prepare. The second site I would like you to check out is Alistair Coburn's site. And let me check out this address because Alistair has some really great videos and lessons. He's a really cool dude as well, and very giving. He's got a website with a ton of information. I'm not sure which site is the most current one. Okay, no, that won't work. I need to ask Alistair which site I need to send people to. Okay. What I'll do is find out from him which website has all of those juicy details that I've watched. I can't remember, but he shared this with me a few years ago. A very helpful website. But if you just Google him, I'll type in his Wikipedia info page. Maybe you'll get some stuff from there that can help you. If you really want to get into the essence of Agile before your ACP, I watched Alistair's videos before my ACP, like years before my ACP. They'll free your mind. You know, you've heard of the information radiator. That's the guy who coined the term. So, great guy in Agile, really great guy. Pago's Place. Hey, thank you, man. I've seen you around here a few times. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Arif, thank you very much. Oh, you're so kind, Arif. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope this gives you some ideas anyway of stuff you can do. But your local PMI chapter, you know, it's like a group purchasing organization. When the PMI chapter says, we're going to present training to you for, I don't know, $500, rather than you spending $2,000 elsewhere. It's like a group purchasing organization when your PMI chapter, through the power of number, gets a trainer to come train you in Agile or something like that. So, Biren, are you in a PMI chapter, or have you attended any PMI chapter meetings? Another question from Biren. Any link or URL or sample for reference? Do you mean oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So I hope what I've told you has helped. I know Alistair has got some really, I think maybe it's alistair.coburn.us, but that shows me a server error. Yeah, I'll find out from him what's going on, but that's a server error. So that's not very helpful, is it? Biran says, one more confusion, CSM or PMI AC. Hey Biran, I thought you'd done the CSM. So if you've not done the CSM, Certified Scrum Master, with the Scrum Alliance, not with the allotropes or the, don't even let me go there. If you've not done the CSM for real with the Scrum Alliance, I would advise you do that first. So, okay, are you in Mumbai? Okay, so Biren, on the Scrum Alliance website, you can actually find courses that are happening in Mumbai in the next month. In fact, I see that there's a 2-day classroom training in Mumbai. It's going to cost you 25,000 rupees though. Let me chat that in right here, and you can get an idea of, hang on. You can get an idea of what is available out there. Or just go to Scrum Alliance. Let me do that for you. scrumalliance.org and type in CSM, or click on attend an event. Yeah, I think it's attend an event. And it's going to search for something near you. Let's type in India here. And let's see. City, Mumbai. Is New Delhi near Mumbai at all? Because I actually don't find Mumbai. Okay, let me just do all cities. And let me search. Let me see when you can take this train in. How soon? Okay. So actually the trainings that are available are not in Mumbai. They're actually more in Hyderabad and Bengaluru. Let me send that. Let me do that right now. I'll just let me type that in here. I think you might find, if you go to this site and search, it is possible I've not done a thorough search. Maybe I've not done a good enough search. But if you go there yourself and search with the parameters that are unique to you, you might find some better options. But I'm quite sure that these are held regularly in India. There are a lot of people who are CSMs in India. In fact, you can just click on Get Certified and just follow through with the links, and you should be able to find what you're looking for. But the bottom line is this, Biren, I would not embark on the ACP personally, having done both myself and having done my Scrum certification first. I would not advise doing the ACP without doing the CSM first. So I hope that gave you guidance. I'm going to help you find Alistair's page, and I will put it in the comments when I finally do. I'm not really sure about, oh dear. But you're PMP, Biren, aren't you? Right? You're PMP. Since you're PMP, you got to go for certificates that are complementary. You see? So I'm not really sure about those other certifications. Yeah, one thing you need to know though is internationally, the way certifications are looked at is which organization is it from? Not just do you have a certification. I would rather you spend 40 hours studying for free, by looking at the Agile Alliance video. So if you became a member of the Agile Alliance for $100 or however much it is, tons of videos. I would rather do that than spend money on a certification that is not really recognized or is not in the top 5, Let's talk about the top 5 in basic project management, general project management. You got to talk about the PMP, you got to talk about, even mention, CAPM, at least there are tens of thousands of CAPMs. Last time I checked, it was on 30,000 or so. You got to mention Prince 2, right? Then you got to mention CSM for sure. And then there's a few other ones with other international organizations in project management that you got to mention. But if it's not in the top, with the CSM, ACP, PMP, Prince 2, those levels, I wouldn't waste time doing it. A lot of people wasting their money taking Mickey Mouse Scrum certifications, It's like I might as well set up shop and say, Biren and Phil Incorporated, and give award a Scrum certificate that both of us crafted in the basement. You know what I'm saying? So I would rather go with a firm or with an organization that is a neutral entity, as opposed to a firm like Praizion delivering out certificates saying they are on par with PMP or CSM. That to me is not a realistic approach to getting certified in anything. I want an organization that is neutral. I want an organization that does not have conflict of interest with what they're trying to achieve. An organization that is not trying to camouflage the truth. Anyway, don't let me go there. So, I've taken too long. I was trying to do the basics, but I guess we've got onto the deep end. But thank you for the questions, though. I'm going to try to get answers for you. But as a PMP, I would say don't be hasty to add certifications to what you've got, except they really, truly add value. If it doesn't truly add value in the global marketplace, I wouldn't do it. Even if you gave it to me free, I wouldn't accept it. There's some certifications that I would probably use as waste bin lining paper. Let's not go there, Biren. You got me started. You started me off. All right, I hope this helps, and thank you very much, folks. If you've got any questions about the basic project management stuff, I'll be more than happy to answer them in the chat or in the messaging section later on. All right? You are most welcome. Thank you very much, everyone else, and I wish you all the best in your project management, okay? I look forward to hearing from you. Take care. Bye for now.